Polytheism, the worship of multiple deities. It's a word that throws most people off, especially when they clearly come from a monotheistic, single deity worship background. I found that when I explain what polytheism is to family, friends, coworkers, most of the time that's the end of the conversation. Still determining how I should feel that their line of questioning ends there, but I digress. Modern examples of polytheistic groups are Hellenism, worship of the Greek gods, and heathenry, a common term for worship of the Norse gods. There's also eclectic paganism, which is when a person has a personal pantheon of gods from various cultures, which is fine. That's fine. The only wrong ways to be a polytheist is 1. Culture appropriation, taking traditions and rituals from closed practices. Not saying you can't follow a Navajo deity if you're of European descent, but find your own traditions. Colonialism isn't cool, kids. Secondly is folkism, which is basically polytheism with a hearty scoop of racism. With that said, let's talk Gaulish polytheism. Sabuta and welcome to GaulCast. I'm Artokatos Terraniknos, and today we're doing a quick 101 on Gaulish Polytheism. For a more in-depth discussion, please check out the podcast episode, What is Gaulish Polytheism?, which I will try to link in the descriptions. This is the first of our original YouTube content, so to sound like a real YouTuber, please subscribe and hit that like button. Gaulish Polytheism, Gaulpol for short, is the worship of Gaulish gods, or deoi. Since we covered polytheism, it's time to explain Gaul. Up until the rise of a certain empire from Italy, most of Europe was inhabited by Celtic tribes. Territories that are now France, Belgium, Switzerland, Luxembourg, parts of southern Germany were known as Gaul or Gallia. Because I'm planning on doing videos to cover Gaulish history and other related topics, let me tackle some common misconceptions for now. Gaul was a region filled with tribes that often fought with each other. They were never a united country. Gaulish, aka Gallic, culture was different from insular Celtic cultures like Irish, Scottish, Welsh, etc. Continental and insular Celts had druids as spiritual leaders, but they did not share the same deities. Cronos was never worshipped in Ireland, and the Morrigan was never worshipped on the continent. The Gauls didn't paint themselves blue. Celtic is pronounced with a hard K, not an S. Looking at you, Boston. With that out of the way, let's talk Pantheon. More accurately, lack of Pantheon. Gaul was filled with tribes, and each tribe had their own pantheon of deoi. There were big names that were found in multiple areas like Taranis, the thunder god, Epona, the horse goddess, Stirona, goddess of snakes and the night sky, and the mallet-wielding Sukelos. But there are literally hundreds of localized deoi. Artio, the bear goddess of Bern, Switzerland, Arduina, the goddess of the Ardennes forest, Sequana, the goddess of the Seine River, and the list goes on and on and on. In fact, Gaul is home to over 300 deoi. Now I'm sure you're asking, do you guys have some fancy name to self-identify, like Hellenist or Heathen? Well, I'm glad you asked. Segamos Wendugeni, who literally wrote the book on Gaulish Polytheism, it's called Ancient Fire, find it on Amazon. Great book. I highly recommend it. Coined the name Cenobesis, old custom. However, another term has come up called Galatabesis, custom of the Gauls. Individuals use the term Galatis, which means Gauls or a Gaul. Now, earlier I said that a lot of Europe was inhabited by Celtic tribes. That goes outside of Gaul as well, from Iberia to the Czech Republic and even in the Anatolian Peninsula. This often raises the question, are they even Gaulish if they were outside of Gaul? It's a fair question, and the answer is technically yes. What really separated the continental Celts from the insular ones, and what connected all the continental Celts, was the Latin material culture. Artworks, tools, weapons, and how they built their homes and settlements was similar across the continent. Language may have split into different dialects, but there's enough evidence to show that the material culture linked these peoples. Not to mention, the Gauls and the Germans migrated a lot. So a Gaul is still a Gaul, even when they aren't in Gaul, in my opinion. This little history lesson leads to the fact that not all Gaul pol is practiced the same. Despite Gaulish being the minority of Celtic polytheism, there's already a good handful of organizations and traditions developing. Some are based on modern Gaulish polytheism, like Bessus Neo Galation or BNG, which means the new Gaulish custom, and other are based on reconstruction of regional focus, like Cenobessus Borg custom of the Belgoi. With so much of Gaulish history forgotten, and what little we have was written down by Romans and Greeks, Gaulish polytheism, Gaulpol, Cenobessus, Galatabessus, is more than just worshipping vague gods. Gaulish polytheism is spiritually mixed with reconstruction and rebuilding a lost culture. Gaulish polytheism is a tradition based on fighting back colonialism and oppression. Gaulish polytheism is a tradition based on fighting back colonialism and oppression, rekindling a flame that an empire tried to snuff out. Gaulish polytheism is above racism and fascism and hate of any kind. No hard feelings from it. Most importantly, Gaulish polytheism is a spiritual practice that is growing and flourishing and is inclusive to anyone, and synchronized practices like Gallo-Roman, Gallo-Germanic, Gallo-Hellenistic, Gallo-Brythonic, Gallo, everything. I hope this crash course was helpful and a good starting point for you little pagans and polytheists who are curious and probably led here by Cornunos. All jokes aside, please check out our podcast wherever you find podcasts. And if you're really interested, find Gaul Chat on Discord. See you next time. Swawela.